Hello, welcome to the 11th London Kurdish Film Festival online edition and this really exciting live stream panel discussion under today's theme of women in film. We are very honored to have three very special guests who are renowned figures in the current film industry as well as within Kurdish cinema. They are Barry Shalmashi, Safina Savdika, and Sonin Yusuf. Unfortunately, at the moment, we've not managed to get a connection with Safina. She's in Rojava, so she might end up joining in the middle of the panel discussions, hopefully. But we will start with Barry and Sonin. So we also originally had the actress Halima Ilter as one of the panelists, but unfortunately, she also was not able to attend due to some unforeseen circumstances. And we hope that she'll be able to participate in future activities with Lkff down the line. If Halima was here, though, this panel would hold representation from all the four parts of Kurdistan. So that was something we're very proud of. This panel is titled Women in Film, Reimagining the Film Industry. So a little bit about it, this panel discussion. It's a very important in reviewing the current landscape of film industry and how it impacts women in front of and behind the camera. Every year, Lkff advocates for an open dialogue to discuss the representation of women in leading positions within cinema in hopes of bridging the inequality gaps that currently exist and also discuss where progress has been made. So there will be a strong focus on Kurdish cinema, discussing the different challenges facing women in the film industry whilst sharing practical tools and education for aspiring female filmmakers. We wish to continue to support and empower future female filmmakers by sharing experiences from established female writers and directors, producers, and actors. Moving on to this evening's panelists, we have Barry Shalmashi. She is a writer and director, was born in Paris in 1983 and grew up in Netherlands after spending the first 2 years of her life in the mountains of South and East Kurdistan with her parents. She graduated from the Netherlands Film Academy and received her MA at Utrecht School of Arts. She recently released Big Village, which is an interactive film that documents the early years amongst the Kurdish revolutionaries and Peshmerga base where she spent her childhood. Since then, she has written and directed several short films. Amongst those is Shouted from the Rooftops. This one is participating in this year's Lkff online edition. It will be screening tomorrow. She is currently working on her biggest film so far, titled Under the Same Cloudy Sky. Barry Shalmashi is a writer, director, and a tutor at Sandberg Institute, as well as an advisor to the Netherlands Film Fund. Moving on to Sonin, she's a writer and director. Sonin Yusuf, she was born in 1987 in Duhok, South Kurdistan. In 2008, she started studying feature film directing at the Baden-Württemberg Film Academy. Her film Trattoria premiered at the 62nd Berlin International Film Festival in 2012. She shot House Without Roof in and around her hometown Duhok, South Kurdistan in 2015. This was not only her graduating project, but also her first feature film. And since then, Sonin Yusuf has been working as a director for several international serial productions, including Netflix and Amazon Prime. I will introduce Safina Savdika as well, just in case she does come online. She is a director and producer. Safina was born in Serakanya, West Kurdistan in 1991. She is the director of the Rojava International Film Festival and a member of the Rojava Film Commune. She is also leading the Women's Independent Filmmakers Department within the Cinema Commune. Safina has been working in the Arts Academy in Rojava as a script writing trainer since 2015 and is the organizer of the Rojava Film Festival for the last 4 years. She has a short film called Home, which is also showcasing in this year's edition. This will also be screened tomorrow under the theme of War on Screen. She has worked in various productions as an assistant director and producer, and she's currently working on a feature film about the story of 3 women during the Turkish attack on her hometown, Serakanya. So I would like to welcome you all and thank you for participating in the 11th Lkff online edition. And I want to say hi to all the panelists.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. Jumping right into this discussion, actually, I would like to start with Barry, if that's okay. We can just jump into the sort of challenges and opportunities and successes, etc., in regards to the film industry as a woman. So what are these key challenges that you have faced thus far within the film industry as a woman, Barry?
Great question. You know what it is? Sometimes it's invisible and you only realize later, or you hear something later. Sometimes the difficulties are very subtle because you don't know why something didn't work out. So it might be more complicated, and it might actually help to talk to each other about it, to realize the difficulties. But in general, to start with, it's hard to choose to go into film as a woman, as a young woman, because if I speak for myself, it didn't appear as something you could do or something you could study, because there's a lack of a lot of role models. It's even here in the Netherlands not common to go into film as a woman, especially, let's say, 10, 15 years ago when I was in film school. I remember before choosing to want to even go to film school, I was making films for fun with the guys that I was friends with, and they all wanted to be directors, and it didn't even cross my mind that it could be something for me too, because I always saw it as this manly, masculine thing, playing with all these techniques, that I thought I can be part of the process, but I cannot take a leading role behind the scenes.
That's really interesting, and seems to be a very similar experience for a lot of filmmakers when they first started off. I would like to ask the same question to Solene, actually, and see what her experience has been like, or whether it was similar to yours, Barry.
Yeah, actually, I liked how you put a lot of things, a lot of, important themes into words, and you described it very well. That was very subtle, and you kind of also this imagination that directing is something very, masculine, and it does not appear to do it. And actually, now I'm asking myself, what was the point that I realized I could do it myself? I'm just thinking about it right now. And it was after I started working in this production company where I saw a lot of very art housey movies like from Middle East, from Iran, Iraq, and Turkey, also from Kurdistan. And there were also a lot of female directors that did like these beautiful films where this was the point actually where, but still my role models weren't women. It have been always men, or directors who did like this great productions and classical movies like The Godfather or Goodfellas or or the first Kurdish movies were also like Bahman Kubadi and also Hussein Hassan. I like him very much. So I was looking up to them somehow, but didn't realize that I could be part of it. And it seemed like an idea that was so far away at that point. And I will give you right when you describe this. It's like it's not how do I put it? It's not something that that anybody would say that it was forced on us. It's just like something like it's like racism today. When you describe it nowadays, when we talk about racism, and it's somehow part of the society. But now we are talking about it, and then we realize so many things are going wrong, right? Mm-hmm. When you put it into words and when you start to discuss it, and when you start to realize it, that people are treating you in a different way and not believing in you, and somehow tell you also things that really are negative at some point. Male directors, they would. I remember this guy who was telling me that the first time that he saw me, he didn't believe that I could direct. you know. And I was like, really, I mean, afterwards I thought about it, but at that point I was just laughing, you know. Oh, really? I was like, you know, taking it as small talk. But now when I think about it, it makes me angry, because when I look at a guy and he wants to be a director, I don't, you know, imagine that, or I don't tell him that it's not possible for you because you don't look like it. You know, I kind of want to find out what his ideas are, or his visions are, or where he wants to go as a filmmaker or artist or whatever. But this is like the, you know, the images that you have in your head, how a director should look like, or how a director should behave, or this is like really toxic also. So this is what it was very, yeah, personal. It always is.
It always is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you would like to share, like in what instances did you experience this kind of like mistreatment from other colleagues, or was it usually in regards to your own projects, or was it like when you were kind of starting off studying, or moving on, establishing yourself in your career?
Well, you know, when you're especially when you're an immigrant, you know, for example, in Germany, you have to do the double work. It feels like it, you know, you have to do the double work to achieve things. You have to be smarter, you have to be faster, you have to be more creative, you have to do everything like double. So for a woman working in between, like being a Kurdish filmmaker also, who has to deal with that kind of shit, you know, there, and to break this border, you know, these borders, and to actually, I always had that feeling that nobody really takes me serious, but I just didn't care because I had my own vision, and at the same time I had a lot of people who supported me, and this was the good energy that you were, you know, taking to make your project, yeah, to make them you know, be realized. So at that point I just focused on the good people, and try to change some things. And in my mind there wasn't this difference between male or female, you know. I always wanted to be a filmmaker, to be a visionary for young Kurdish people, you know, to create young, fresh Kurdish cinema. That was always my aim. And this is also my audience. When I do films, I think about, you know, this young audience. I don't think about old people not willing to be open.
Yeah, actually, that moves on to a topic that I wish to discuss with both of you in regards to how Kurdish cinema is still in its infancy. But are there more opportunities for women to enter into the Kurdish film industry, even though it's at its infancy? Like, how is that? How was that for you both? We can start with Barry to begin with and see how that is.
Then we have to define the Kurdish film industry, because currently we only have one under construction, but we don't have a solid industry because we don't have all the elements like normal funding, post-production, complete team. So like it's while we're building it, we're also using it at the same time. Imagine living in a house like that, right? That's what we're doing. So I don't think it's easy to answer it from a Kurdish film industry perspective, because it's not really there yet. We have Kurdish films, but is it an industry? Not fully. But making films about Kurdistan, or with your Kurdish identity in the movie, is not always easy, even abroad, because whatever it is you make, it has to somewhat resonate with the momentum. So if I want to make something super Kurdish, it has to have some relevance to European audiences as well. Otherwise, you will not get it funded, because there's no intention from the European audience to watch it, for example. So whatever I do or plan to do, sometimes you have to be really patient because there has to be room for it. And that doesn't even necessarily have to do with male or female or however you identify. It's about timing and the room there is for certain audiences. But what's good about now is how there's new audiences who find their own filmmakers. And for example, how we connect with our young Kurdish audience, as Celine describes, through social media. Like you can kind of sense what they need and what they want. So that's a good development that I feel like in Kurdish cinema, it's happening more than, for example, in Dutch cinema, where I also work in. For the Kurdish audience, I can feel their eagerness and their hunger, and they contact us, and they're basically like, chiclets, feed me with your content. And however route we take to get those films made, because of that connection with the audience, you know you're gonna find your way. But sometimes it takes a lot of time before our European funds understand the need of what we find urgent. Was that an answer to your question, or did I get?
It was definitely. Thank you. I think in that following that really, because you're both you and Celine are working as within Dutch and German film industry, is the sort of European film industry, as well as making Kurdish films, and kind of in a way establishing what Kurdish cinema is from your perspectives. Going by the general film industry of the world and the European film industry, is there a range and variety available for women in this film industry for positions in front of and behind the camera? And the same sort of question in regards to Kurdish cinema, how different it is, or what's needed to be progressed. Celine, if you would like to go for this one.
I mean, they created the quote for women here in Germany, and also during the Berlinale, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, that they had like great panels and workshops, and they tried to manage to bring all the female filmmakers behind and in front of the cameras together to build up this quote where the film industry in Europe, I mean, especially in Germany, most of them were Germans, try to focus also to decide to put more, for example, female directors behind the camera. And at the first time, it felt like somebody is giving me a present, because all of us were working so hard. There were just like this great female directors, But there I realized I was against the quote, I didn't participate it, but I realized that it moved so much things forward because it had to be done. It's like when you often have like in the American like shows or movies, you always have like this Asian guy or this Afro-American guy or girl or woman playing a very diverse character. I had nothing to do with its background, but they decide to do it because they represent like a group or a minority or whatever. So it clicked somehow, and I find it very crazy that we had to produce this quote, like go this way to make it possible for women to be also considered when they are searching for directors. And the thing is that I did like this big project, but I was like maybe the 70s or 60s director who was asked to do the project before they asked like maybe I don't know, 40, 50 men to do it, and they couldn't. And at some point, they were thinking of me, you know? And then I did it, and they realized, wow, she can also do it. She's good as a director. And they realized, you know, they could also work with me. But just imagine, you are like far, far away from their lists, you know, for picking you up to do a thing that you studied, you know, you studied for it, like 8 years. You put effort and time and energy into it. And during the studies, you also put up, you know, with produced good films, and now it feels like it has this bitter sweet taste, you know, because it feels like we didn't achieve it at our own. They have to give it to us, you know. It feels like voting, you know. It's something God given, but at some point, men or whatever had to decide if women could, you know, vote. They stood against it. And this is like the crazy way that this society works. And this is like something that you could also, you know, it mirrors in the film industry also. So in my case, I think a lot of things changed when the female directors decided to go into politics and put pressure on the film industries, like as you said, Beri, when you have like these funds giving money to the projects, and most of the time it's missing, diversity is missing, yeah, in all cases, not just like, you know, stories and content, but who's telling the stories, you know. And I think we are doing like small steps, but it's going forward. But still, it doesn't feel right, because I often hear that, I mean, when commissioners, you know, TV channels or producers, they say that, yeah, we would like to have a female director. We need a female director. Do you know somebody? And it feels like they have to do it now. You know what I mean?
Like your token of a token to fill the criteria.
Yeah, to fill the and it feels like so. It feels like a punch in my face sometimes, you know. And when you're invited to discussions, you know, to represent like all female directors, it feels like a political work to do, but it's not. You know, it's not. It's just something God given. You know, it's like telling an artist, well, you can't do films because one leg is missing. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There's always work that requires to be done, and we all have our own fights to do in that sense. So including with the voting and in politically, within the structure of the industry, the international film industry in general, and from these things, it's all about just highlighting and pushing that. It's not about proving ourselves, but about highlighting and showcasing the work that's being done. Because otherwise, you know, do you both feel like you're always constantly having to prove yourself? You know, even when you get a position, a leading position, directing a film, you're always needing to prove yourself. Like you get questioned by your colleagues around you, or even, you know, it's a hierarchy when it comes to film production. Do you always feel like there's this pressure as well on top of that?
Yeah, definitely. Not just because you're happy and lucky when you get an opportunity, but also being a migrant, being a woman, there's extra eyes on you when you fail as well. So when you do 2 steps extra to get there, they'll push you 4 steps behind when you fail. So to me, there's always this pressure that I also have the evidence of in little failings. You can't grow if you don't make mistakes, you know, but we're not as allowed to make mistakes as directors who are the norm so far.
Yeah.
So even when you're lucky enough to be there, you have to be careful.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I just wanted to add that for example, when you said that when you do like an application for, you know, development or production, or have like this very Kurdish theme, yeah, as a female director, you want to do something about, for example, I mean, we know that a lot of international directors, female, also male, produced and directed films about the Kurdish fighters in Rojava, and also, you know, in Turkey, in Bakur, Bashur, you know, in Rojalat also. But I know that if it was a script that I wrote like this, you know, they wouldn't fund it in that way.
Exactly.
Now I'm in another position, for example, in Germany, because I did like Netflix, Amazon, and, you know, stuff like that. Maybe my chances, not maybe, my chances are higher now to produce such a movie as, for example, the directress did Girls of the Sun, you know, Efa Hosson, when she did this movie. But I can guarantee you that if it was me who was the writer of this movie, it would be completely different. The range of production, I mean, we're speaking about money, we are speaking about cast, we are speaking about the Cannes Film Festival, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's more difficult to be an immigrant, you know, still we are talking about it. I mean,
we're born in Europe.
And somehow, I mean, I was born in Kurdistan, but,
from a young age.
So it's difficult in a very wide way for us to make our story visible, you know. And sometimes it makes me angry because these are our stories that has to be told with our perspectives. You know, it is something that we went through. It's so personal for us. It's not something that, it's not a product. And when they do it, they use it as a product for example, feminism, you know, and then they mistreat it. They don't really know what they are talking about. So they just like take these cliche images of female fighters and put it on screen, and I don't know, maybe somewhere Beyonce in the background is like the roads, yes. You know?
That's very true. And at the same time, not only are you battling against being, you know, trying to get these funds and applications from just being a woman, firstly, but secondly, you're battling by being a Kurdish woman, trying to tell Kurdish stories, and that it's, you know, not being able to tell your own stories on the international scale.
Yeah, totally. I'm not speaking against Efa Hosson, because I think she did a great job, despite of not knowing what she's, you know, she's maybe creating there, and that it's somehow not the right way to do that movie. Yeah, I mean, about what's the right way? It's
do you think it's a misrepresentation, or do you think that it's
yeah, it is a definitely.
Well, I can tell you, in around that same time they went in development, I had just spent 5 years in Kurdistan, and I came back to the Netherlands hoping I could translate that experience to film.
Yeah.
And because I didn't work in the Dutch industry for those 5 years, it pushed me to the back already. As Celine just gave the example of the like 40 men that were before her, I went back in line right there. And I did submit a couple of ideas that were very urgent for the era we lived in back in 2015, and those topics around ISIS, about our fighters. And none of my ideas got through. Short films, feature films, even Big Village, that finally succeeded and that's somewhat related to it, was first, like in the first rounds, they were in doubt because it was too political. It was my personal story as a baby, and it was too political to them in a time where everyone started to make films and now TV shows about our fighters. And people like us and had difficulties getting those ideas funded, like with feedback that it was too radical, too dangerous, too political. I was not ready for it, but I would get plenty of calls from around the world to support other makers with their Kurdish stories.
Exactly. And I helped, I
Me
did.
too. Yeah. Because you if the films are being made, you feel co-responsible for the right image to come out. So I've sat down with most of those filmmakers who brought it, because you don't want, whoever makes the film, you don't want to, because there's not that many stories about Kurds yet. Anything you show has a huge impact on the way people look at us. So I feel responsible to fix that where I can, even if it's not my film.
I think that that's very important, that we kind of, as an audience as well, to start viewing these things with a little bit more critique, a little bit more of a, what kind of a gaze is this film showing, and is it actually told by the hands or support of Kurdish people, or is it kind of skewed in a more of a Western gaze on top of that? I think that's generally a very important topic to think about as the Kurdish cinema as a whole. And also now, I usually would leave the questions right to the end from the audience, but this one is tied in with this topic, so I just kind of want to get it out for Celine. And also for Barry, actually, because you're talking about, your own project and how you weren't getting the support, and it was being criticized for being too political. If either of you were able to have made a film just like the one, like the Girls of the Sun, about female fighters, would you have done it? Well, how would you have done it differently to what you're seeing right now in the content we're getting?
Celine, do you want to go first?
No, you go.
Okay. What is different is that these stories are in our DNA to start with. So little details that take a lot of research to get right are within our blood, within our culture. We are brought up with that. We've seen it around us our entire life. So things that we don't even have to think of will become huge mistakes if an outsider does it. Imagine someone in Kurdistan who's never been to France makes a movie about Paris.
Thank you.
That's what's going wrong. Of course, you can make your depiction, your version of what it is, and it might be creative, it might be fun, but it's never the same. Look at all the Eiffel Towers in China. It look like it, but they're never real. So that's
what it feels
the
like.
difference.
How it feels like. It's not real. It's not authentic. So the thing is, what I always ask myself, why am I telling this story? What's my personal connection to it? And often I don't see the personal connection from these filmmakers to, for example, the Kurdish issue, because it is. When you do a portrait about a Kurdish female fighters, then you have to dig deep. You have to really put efforts into realizing how big this issue is, and not just take the ideas that you like and just scrabble them together and put it on screen because you have this own vision, and you you misuse things that are very important to other people. So for me, these things are very personal. As you said, Barry, it's like something that's in our DNA. And when we talk about it, we don't just do it for ourselves as filmmakers to be famous with it because we think that now it's something very important, and it's a sujet or it's a subject that could be screened at any festivals. No, we do it because we believe it has to be shown, because it is something that our parents went through, it is something that our friends went through, and it is something that it's still surrounding us, you know, in our everyday life. So we do it also because we have this this inner fight, you know, not only the outer fight that we are dealing with, but it is something that is given us. I know that I grew up with this revolutionary thought, you know, to do something to create changes, you know, to put Kurds on the map, their issue. And when I see these films, I don't see the soul in there. I don't see it. Like, for me, it's not the truth. It is a lie, you know, with a lot of glitter, you know, making it beautiful or making it seem like it's very important, but it's not to them. Because when you listen to the stories where it was created, for example, if you really want to support this issue, this female fighters, this conflict, you would not, I mean, it's also a safety thing, but you would not go, for example, to Georgia to shoot there. You know what I mean? You would go to, for example, Kurdistan Bashur is safe. You could go there. You could shoot the film there. You could support filmmakers there. You know, you could take female actors from there, support them, give them roles. You know, and this is like something that, if I think about filming and if I think about doing films, I also like have this idea or vision of how many other people, filmmakers, actors, musicians, DOPs, you know, assistant directors, can I support Kurdish who are not able to go to film schools, etc. And this is like another context. It's just going somewhere, stealing from it, you know, and saying bye-bye. It's like putting an effort into that place and into the people.
Actually, going by that, following what you're saying, I think that it's, you know, how is, you both have been shooting in Kurdistan as well as in Europe. Barry, your project Big Village, did you actually go to Kurdistan to do this, or are your ongoing upcoming project, are you actually shooting in Kurdistan? What is your how was that filming in Kurdistan, having a production in Kurdistan as a woman as well? And I will ask the same question to Soline as well, because I know you did House Without Roof there, which I know was your graduate film funded in Germany, but you then shot it in Bashuri, Kurdistan. I just wanted to see your points of view in regards to the difference between shooting in Europe and also shooting in Kurdistan as a woman.
The scale of Soline's film is totally different than the experiences I've had so far. In my experience, because everything I've done there has been with a small crew and low budget, it's always been difficult because you never have the guarantee that what you need for your production is going to be there the next day. But that's because I worked in really small situations and small crews. So I think it's more relevant in that case how Soline has experienced her future film. But in general, the time that I've lived there and I was teaching in film school in Holer, in Erbil, it was very hard for even my colleagues to accept my role being equal to theirs. As a woman, I don't know, maybe age difference sometimes back then, maybe because I moved back from Europe. However, the context and whatever the reason was, it was hard for the people in the industry, a lot of them, to accept it. On the other hand, there's also the energy of Kurdish filmmakers and crew amongst each other, and we are like a family, like a global family. We are helping each other, and everyone's happy when something's happening. So it's like almost two worlds in one. I remember one time being offered funding in Kurdistan region in Bashur, and I heard the reason, although I didn't even apply for anything. They asked and then they pulled back. The reason I didn't get the funding was because they didn't believe a woman like me would be able to handle her film set, to be in charge on set. Yeah, so that's a sad story, but I'm really curious to see and hear about the dynamics on your set in Kurdistan, Solin.
I mean, Duhok as my birthplace was very supportive, because they were like embracing me as a female director coming back to Kurdistan to shoot there, and mainly to shoot there, and a Kurdish story based also there. And they felt very connected. So they opened all the doors that were able to be open for a first time, directing a feature film director. It's so I had a very good experience, but there are also, of course, small incidents and accidents and discussions and moments where I had to, be louder, and also to fight there to be respected as a female director. And but I was somehow not used to it, but I know that it would happen. I know that it would be difficult for me at some point to be taken seriously.
Do you think you have to be a leader in what they, in their perspective, see as a leader, maybe?
Yeah, I think, because I was, in the end, many of them, I mean, the ones that, the big part of the team and also the production were really great. As you said, there are like filmmakers who use filmmaking as a film school, because they are not allowed, not allowed, but they don't have the opportunities there, because it's still not, I don't know why, on the map to produce or create a film school there. It's just, I don't know, I don't get it. Why? I mean, there was like in Havler, it was you had a department for cinema at that university, right?
Exactly, at Salah University.
Yeah, and I think in Slemani there's also a film course as well that they've started to.
But it's always like this niche, It's like this course, or it's like this short, very small department. It seems like not important. It's like they don't really care about it. And it is something, it's an art that puts so many important things on an international map, and I just don't get it. I just don't get it why they are not realizing it to put money in that and to create a film university. That would be one of my aims, to support that, to make it possible. But
well, actually, this would be really great moment then to really ask, like, in what ways do you see this practically being able to happen?
I think the filmmakers there have to come together, because, as you know, for example, also the London Kurdish Film Festival, and also the festival in Doha, for example, Doha International Film Festival, they were like, they are places where filmmakers come together, right? You give like workshop panels, and then there are some young people coming there realizing, this is my dream, and I, get to know filmmakers, see films, and then you have like this creative atmosphere, and then you realize things are possible, right? Meeting directors, writers, producers, and then this dream is not that far away. when you realize things are happening around you, when you create a festival, when you do workshops and things like, it's not that you have just do it, you have to do it like step by step. You don't need that building to put it in there, just like some little not just some niches anywhere to like names, you know, to keep the people calm. Well, we have this department there, so what's your problem? You know, but that's not the point. It's, you could also do it online. For example, we have master schools and master classes, like great master classes that I take online, you know, from filmmakers that I admire, and you could do the same. But I don't know, it's we are talking about education, we are not talking about money. Yeah, we're not talking about the business that has to be, or industry has to be created. First of all, just try to find a class and, you know, bring some filmmakers together. This is the idea, this is the spirit. And I know for sure that a lot of us, I know Biri, I gave some workshops with my cinematographer during the Kurdish Film Festival there. It was great. And also shooting the film, we decided to put up teams. For example, everybody who was interested in makeup or in costume, we had departments from Germany, but they didn't have any assistants, so they got like partners from Kurdistan. It was a 2-team department always, so that the Kurdish guy or girl could help with language, but also learn how to create processes, you know, of where do I buy things, where do I, you know, organize them, which actor has which costumes and stuff like that. So this is like schoolings, learning by doing, as you said, Biri. And I think like shooting there, doing films there is also an opportunity to create like this film schooling atmospheres. This is what we wanted to do with House Without Roof, and I think a lot of people were very happy with the production because we took them serious. And for example, this is the difference. They told me that a lot of great guys there. I had this guy who was my assistant director. He said that it was the most peaceful experience he had with the director, and he learned so much within the work with me about directing, and it seems like everything that he did before was wrong. You know what I mean? Because he had also like created this image of how a director should be.
A dictator on set.
I don't know, a choleric, aggressive, loud, I don't know. But it made me happy that he became like, he got this other experience, you know, to realize that, listen, we are talking about arts. We are talking about discussing about arts, you know, discussing about acting, music, scenes. It is something that needs to be also fun, and it's a school. When I direct, sometimes I don't have an idea where I'm going, you know. I have a vision, but it's not like that I am always fully in control. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Very, you know, from this kind of, from the inception of the idea and to production shooting and, you know, reaching the kind of distribution stages of your potential projects or the projects you've had in the past, you know, how were you able to navigate through these processes, and has that process been different from you to other filmmakers in the industry, you know, like as a woman as well?
I think every film or any project is a whole new adventure, and of course there's rules and there's like certain funds and certain distributors and channels and the whole media around it that you go to, and I think in Holland it's a pretty solid route you take when you take the common route, so nothing exciting about that, but of course in every step you need to keep convincing people, which has been sometimes easy, sometimes difficult in the past. And it really comes to whether other people trust you with your idea, and if they feel it too, whatever it is they feel for it, whether it's because it's exciting to them when it's a Kurdish story because it's so exotic and dramatic to them, or whether it's because they feel the same when it's about other stories. Yeah, so it really has to click with everyone, all the gatekeepers, all your potential crew members, everyone up to journalists who interview you about it. If they don't get it, they might not be interested to write about it or write a piece that doesn't resonate at all with what you had in mind. So that's a very strange answer, maybe, but it really depends. And I think the moment you're working on a project that feels good to you, and every step you take kind of makes sense, then you're on the right path with that project and at the right moment in your career. And then those barriers will feel less because you don't need the whole industry to tell your stories. You just need to find those few people you trust and they trust you. And once you have them, once you have a producer you like for the film, and sometimes you need a TV channel, yeah, we have the right commissioner on board, etc. Then it becomes easier. And I think and I hope the further you come in your career, the more people you have found and convinced that you're in the right place. And then I can hopefully concentrate on the story and the art instead of all the worries. Is so-and-so gonna think I can do this? Do they believe in these type of stories? I hope like the further you get, the less issues there are.
No, that's really true. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's very important for us to be able to really focus on what drives us to complete a project and not be discouraged by certain barriers along the way. I think in regards to the fact that you're also a tutor and you have experience in the education sector, going by what Soline previously said with teaching and how there needs to be a space for this. Obviously, it would have been great to have Sefinas on here to talk about her department that she's created in Rojava Film Commune, but unfortunately she's not. But I would like to hear your perspectives on practical ways of being able to make this a reality for the Kurdish up-and-coming filmmakers and also future female filmmakers.
Yeah, it's funny that we're talking about this while we're talking about us as filmmakers, because you can't exclude yourself from the growth of the whole industry. Exactly. And maybe we're crazy for taking that responsibility, but both in Kurdistan as also in the Netherlands, I find that really important. That's why I was teaching there, and that's also why I'm teaching here in a master's program, but also quite often at the film school that I went to. Why? Because looking back at it, and because we have more conversations like this, I notice patterns that are embedded in the industry that we have to get rid of, that I suffered from myself while in film school back here in Amsterdam. Small things like sometimes stories that don't make sense to the teachers because it's all male 50 plus white guys teaching you, for example. And I noticed that's changing. I notice the film school that I went to here in Amsterdam, the Netherlands Film Academy, is really cautious now and has a variety of teachers in all sorts of identifications. And you can also see amongst the students, they're more comfortable talking about that than back in my day. So I would like to contribute to that and be a role model to young female aspiring filmmakers in the Netherlands. And the same goes for Kurdistan. I think just the fact we're doing this, and both Solin and I are quite visible and easy to find for those who aspire to become a filmmaker. That's important. And when it comes to Kurdistan, I have dreams of starting should I say this? Yeah, why not? An art house cinema there one day after I've made a few films myself, to create a safe space to have these discussions and workshop and bring in filmmakers from across the world, bring in people from our own old film schools, and make short films. And you know, the fun thing about filmmaking is it's always community art. It's never just one creative person, as Solin described in her example.
Very true.
So you can only raise that child, the film, when you're all in there together. And one time you're the sound man and you figure out that's your dream. If you've never tried it, you don't know, like, your place in the industry even. And because we don't have that much in Kurdistan, and all they see when a Kurdish film succeeds is the director talking, people sometimes lack to understand the whole world that's behind there. And I'm really proud we have a young woman in the UK studying sound design now, or there's a couple interested in cinematography. And you have to kind of see what's out there to see if it's something for you. So when it comes to Kurdistan, because there is none, there should be exchanges more. And exactly, the more that's being filmed there, the more opportunities to get in touch with the industry. That would be a good beginning. More solid film school. There's so much potential, and it's kids now are so interested in media, active on TikTok and Instagram, etc.
Exactly.
They're so close to filmmaking. I wasn't that close to it when I got interested. So we should hop on that wave and support them.
Definitely. I think that is one of the reasons, Lkff has decided to go online and try to bring this kind of content on that same sort of space. And hopefully as well, because of the situation right now, we're hoping to continue having, maybe future masterclasses with you guys again, or being able to have that space online for teaching and for educating and giving tools to future aspiring filmmakers. And we're really excited to see you, Barry, as well, with that art house cinema idea. That would be really great. And Solin, you should work together.
Definitely. We will do that.
Yeah. So actually, we're kind of nearing the time, but I really have so many questions. This panel discussion could go on for hours. But I still want to see, in terms of like your current projects and the ongoing projects that are happening, or even, are you thinking of continuing shooting or having productions in Kurdistan? Is that proving to be difficult, like even more difficult than what you had before? How are you balancing being a director in Europe as well as Kurdistan? Like, do you feel like you're kind of, you're doing enough projects for both, or do you feel like you always have to choose? Can you combine the two together? I would like to hear in what sense that plays a part in your careers, both of you. We start with you, Solin.
Well, I think when you become a filmmaker and when you decide to do that, you don't really like have this boundaries of do I only tell stories within Germany or Kurdistan? It depends on what drives you. When you have this idea and you realize you fell in love with it, then you put all your energy in it, and then you make it somehow possible to go to Kurdistan under all circumstances to make it possible, because it is something that really is near you, and it is something that needs to be told. This is like the most personal things that's happening with you as a filmmaker. But of course, me as a Kurdish female director, I feel like I have the obligation to, how do I say it, to make myself still visible in Kurdistan. To go there and create these female characters on screen. This is like my aim as a female director, is to create a strong female leads in Kurdish movies, and to create a new image, a different, not new, but a realistic image of Kurdish women. And this is like, I could also do that from here, but sometimes I'm not sure if it is too close to the things that women in Kurdistan are going through. So sometimes problems are very universal. When we have dramas, when we have dilemmas, it's something very universal. But at the same time, you have like conflicts and tragedies, and also like, mistreatment there in a society that has to be put on a map or on the screen to. And I don't like this victimized position of women. I hate that, because at some point I didn't want to see it. I didn't, male directors doing all these stories about Kurdish women. It got on my nerves, because I thought, what do you know about the female struggle there, or female fight there? Actually, you are, feeding yourself and your image with it. It's not about, Kurdish. It's not really about Kurdish women. It's about you positioning yourself in that society, being the different guy. But and this is like a point where it's something like that really drives me to write more stories with strong female characters there, and because I was surrounded with aunts, and my mother, for example, they were really like creative, strong women, and they were actually leading all that family business, right? And they didn't, the images and also the visions and the films that were created from the 80s till now, they don't represent that women. Not me, I don't know, Barry, I don't know how you feel about it, but they don't represent me. Mm-hmm. It's like something they wish. Sometimes I think it's a wet dream of Kurdish men. I don't know what it is, but it feels like a cliche in a cliche in a cliche. It is something that we have seen so much times before, and I'm fed up with it. So this is like the reason why to shoot in Kurdistan, not only for, I said it before, I think my audience is the young Kurdish, audience there trying to change things. This is like the new wave, the new generation living with TikTok and Instagram and trying to be like part of the rest of the world, not so much in such a different place, to feel that different, because they are not. But at the same time, being in Germany, we have also like Kurdish German issues here. And also like the perspective of German people on Kurdistan and Kurdish people from all over, whether it's like Turkey, Syria, Iran or Iraq. It feels like there's a lot of things that should be done to make things more clear. And it's a lot of task to, yeah.
No, it's true. That kind of representation, there's so many perspectives going on. There's a lot of perspectives at play. And there is stories not being told by women. ends up having this misrepresentation, and we end up not really seeing ourselves truly on the screen. And this is why a lot of the female directors in our program, in their Q&As and in their views on filmmaking, they always highlight this specific thing about claiming your own narrative back, about telling your own stories about women. I mean, you can obviously, you don't have to, just because you're a woman director, to actually focus on women's stories. You can go however you want, but you know, stories that have been told thus far, as you say, hasn't really represented you. You don't feel like you're seeing yourself in these films. And Barry, how do you think that representation takes play for you?
Quite similar. And as you mentioned, it's also about the gaze. It's not only who you represent, it's also how you look at it. And then for me, to add an extra perspective, I'm from Eastern Kurdistan, and I don't see much images coming out of that region in general, not on the news, not in film. And there's hardly pictures even. So there's even a problem of imagination for me to even tell those stories. And yet you kind of try to make space for yourself to dive in there, because I feel a responsibility living in the West, being able to travel to southern Kurdistan, being able to work there. I have an okay network there. I feel responsibility to tell stories from Eastern Kurdistan as well. And in general, that region is so underrepresented, let alone the women.
Yeah.
All I can do is talk to my relatives when we meet somewhere else, or when we meet online, or grasp all the resources I have to even build an image of a place that I want to create images about. So that's also with different regions in Kurdistan, and sometimes not being able to travel there, an extra complication. And also for Eastern Kurdistan, since it's almost illegal to write or report about it, it's never on the news either, and therefore not an urgent topic for Western audiences. At least under all the horrible circumstances, they have seen something about Rojava and they want to hear about it. But when I pitch ideas that have Rojava, Eastern Kurdistan, in it, I start below zero. I have to explain what it is. And that's the reason why I made that interactive documentary too. So I've built my own platform, and I can at least start talking from zero on now. So that's an extra layer, and also an extra complication for me working in southern Kurdistan, because I don't have family there or a city welcoming me. And of course, it's not easy for anyone, but there's no one waiting for me to show up and do it, kind of. So and it's, in a case, it's the same for everyone. So you have to create that own space and just go for it.
Yeah.
You really have to want it. You really have to want to tell stories and be a filmmaker in general, let alone a Kurdish female filmmaker, to do it, because so many odds are against you. It's just easier to do anything else, probably.
Yeah, that's very true.
But it's also the best job ever. So
yeah. Saying both of them, we have so much problems with it, but also we love it. So yeah, people do wonder why we're still working in this field. But actually, just because you mentioned Big Village, I would really like to know if you can more about it, if you can explain what exactly it means, because an interactive film, what is that exactly? Can you please, talk a little bit about it, let our audience know?
I wish I knew what it was. No, I'm kidding. It's like a website in this case, where you can follow a route, and on that route you bump into people that I interviewed, and click on their stories or just listen and look at them the way as you see us now telling bits of a bigger story. And you decide the route you take, and if you don't make any decisions, you're gonna see the edit as we made it up. And it's about the base of the revolutionaries that my parents were with back in the mid 80s. And I was with them from age 0 to 2. I have no memories of it, but obviously it's where my history, my personal story starts. So I came to Holland as a refugee at age 2 with all this luggage that I never opened. So I opened it to also find out what that era was about for myself, but also for here, for Europe, for people to understand, hey, we don't just fall from the sky. There's a reason we end up here. And this is our background.
That's a wonderful, explanation about this interactive documentary film. Really, is it a documentary? Or you could class it as documentary.
It's a
right?
documentary, but documentaries are always also films, so it doesn't matter how you name it.
No, that's really great, and we will share how we will be able to see this as well. Hopefully, in the next coming days. That's really great, Betty. For Celine, are you currently working on any projects? What are your upcoming projects?
Yeah, I'm working on actually realizing 2 own serial projects, because as I said, the dream is to take a big production to Kurdistan to shoot it there. TV or streamer drama or series to be shot in Kurdistan. So this is like the aim that I have right now. I'm working on the concept, and at the same time trying to tell a story of a Kurdish family living here in Germany who immigrated to Germany in the 60s as guest workers. So this is like my very personal and very important Kurdish project for me to work on in the next 2 to 4 years. It takes that much time. And at the same time, I read a lot of scripts, and I decide if I'm, taking a path of directing another project for a streamer or doing a movie for the cinema. But cinema right now is not really working. And I think, I hope that it will be a different case next year. And I don't want to be hopeless about it, but it seems like everybody is producing and creating ideas for streamers. Everything like the idea of films online. So this is something that's changing right now. That's why I'm also focusing on creating like serial projects. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's really great. I think that's a great idea as well, because it's something that is, there is a gap of that's needed. It's really, we are showcasing, I mean, within Kurdistan, we're showcasing serials from other countries dubbed in Kurdish. Hopefully we'll be able to have yours in Kurdish streaming in Kurdistan. I have a couple of questions because we need to wrap up as well, but from the audience. From Sharzad Arshadi in Canada. Wonderful to listen to your conversation. I understand deeply since I'm dealing with similar challenges here in Canada as an immigrant artist. What do you say about artists from Kurdistan or Middle East, and in regards to funding for their projects, but the complete misrepresentation of what is really happening in Kurdistan and Kurdish people? That's the exact quote unquote question.
That's fucked up, man.
We can't even beep you, Celine.
That was so honest.
Sorry. Yeah, it is that. I mean, what should we say? We had like similar thoughts and discussions about it.
Yeah.
But maybe you want to add something, Barry, because I feel like we have so much work to do. It's like sometimes I feel so exhausted because I watch like German television or I don't know, journalistic works, documentaries, and for example, when you go on a festival, when you see movies, and it's just like a misrepresentation of so many things. It's like you don't know where to start. You know, it's like the female problem. Then you have like the
Kurdish problem.
The Kurdish problem. Then you have the minorities. It's sometimes like black people are not visible. It's like for somebody, I mean, we Kurdish people, we are always very political, and I feel like, I don't know for the rest, but I feel like very a big solidarity with minor groups, you know, religious groups.
Just like the ones that are like oppressed and dealing with oppression in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It feels like here it's changing now, but it's really very slow. The changes are really very slow. I mean, they are, you know, at least they are happening, but it's a new energy. I feel like that it's a new vibe going on, and people are trying to listen. People are trying to change the view and to look at their program and see that 90% of it is like really white. And they ask themselves now, why is this happening, and how can we change it? But at the same time, it feels like it's not gonna change that fast.
It does. It will take time, definitely. I think it's a slow process, but with this kind of conversation that we're having, this kind of dialogue, hopefully this will spark, you know, practical ideas and ways to change this for the better. Final thing I want to leave on is, with both of you producing and having projects that are going to be shot in Kurdistan. Obviously, you're getting funding and support from your European countries, but how are you going to, put the money where your mouth is and be able to have Kurdish filmmakers or abled filmmakers in Kurdistan to be able to have the opportunity to work with you when you do go?
I think we both know a couple of them, so we have our way in. We're like with one foot already in that community, and we know how to find them, and they know how to find us. So we have to follow up on our responsibility, and also just as much criticism we have to outsiders making films about us. We're a little bit of outsiders too. So if we don't work with people who live there full time and have never left, then also we are not true to the stories we are trying to tell.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. Celine, any final thoughts in regards to this panel discussion on reimagining the future of the film industry, but also Kurdish cinema in all essence, and as women, but firstly as directors, as great directors that you both are, but also as women, any thoughts, any final statements you would like to share with our audiences?
Yeah, actually, I want to, my idea is to surround a lot of young people around me, Kurdish, and I do it here also in Germany. I started to do training, I mean, to support trainees as a director. So right now, actually, I don't need assistance because I think it's I don't feel, it's like,
why do I do it for myself?
This is my assistant. No, I don't need that. But at some point I realized for a lot of people it's just being on a set and then watching and observing can be the greatest school. So I started to support not only with bringing them into projects that I'm shooting here, but also for Kurdistan, hopefully, if I do that, to support young people to do practical training on set when I work. And also I give a lot of connections. I I don't know how it is with you, Barry, but all kind of people, not just actors and actresses, young actors and actresses, but also producers. I'm so happy to see that so many young people want to produce Kurdish, I mean, not just Kurdish films, but produce, because our problem was that we didn't really have like a wide range of producers to go to and bring our stories to them. And for example, I met a great Kurdish film componist, and it's beautiful to see that we have so many big talents that are trying all of the fields, you know, not only being like the director, you know, so also writers. We have great writers that are starting right now. So I try to give them as much connection as possible and put them in the right places to move forward. And my doors are open. I write a lot of personal emails. I read a lot of Instagram. You know, it's sometimes also very difficult because I feel like the responsibility to respond to all of it. But it feels like I had so much help. For example, the producer Mehmet took me to the production company when I was 18. And I had only that vision, the small vision of, I like films, you know, I don't know what to do with it, but I like films, let me do something. And there it started. And so this is like things to give back. You know, I know where I started and I want to give back. And this is my way to do it.
Well, and this will continue on, and that kind of cycle of being able to teach and continue teaching and building, that will be the future of Kurdish cinema, and hopefully more equal representation with women in leading positions. Barry, do you have any final thoughts you would like to share?
I'm hopeful. I was on a talk show in Kurdistan a few years ago to speak about this topic as well, and the day after I was in a taxi and the driver was playing a religious tape and looking at me strangely, and I thought he disapproved of my existence, to say so. And later on I found out he had actually watched the show and told his girls to contact me on social media and to also follow their dreams. And one of them wants to become a filmmaker, and she reached out to me because I was visible and I seemed okay. I seemed a trustworthy person. So I think it's important to be visible here and there. Here in Holland, I try to take one intern per year. It's mostly girls writing me, and even if I don't have the time and I can't use an intern, especially when you're writing, nicer to be alone. But it gives me energy to see the eagerness in the younger generation, and it actually makes a difference when you connect them, when they can see the whole process of development and making and pitching and everything that is around your work as a filmmaker. So I guess it's a lot of giving to take something from the industry every now and then.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Celine. This was a great panel discussion that I had the honor to be part of and moderate with you two. I want to quickly ask, in what ways can people see your journeys on social media or anything, if you guys are both on there?
Well, I think we've mentioned it so often. Just type in our names, right?
Yeah,
you'll find us.
So we might tag you in those.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram.
You know, we will be inundated with more, more messages. That's even more time consuming, but hopefully you will be able to have fun with those.
I love it because you know who you're doing it for also.
Exactly. No, I'm just kidding. I just like, sometimes, but I have to be honest. Sometimes people are sending their scripts.
That's too much.
There's 90 pages of scripts that are like really not good. and they are saying to you though they have the best idea and they want you to do a film out of it, and then you start reading because you want to take it seriously, and then you feel like I don't know, I feel like, so how can I help this person to get to the right place to be helped? Because sometimes you have to start very low. You know, you have to start very, very low and watch movies, read a lot of scripts, take online sessions. You know, when you want to be a script writer, learn about script writing. You know, there are tools. It's not like that I have an idea and I'm writing it down and I say the most important thing with film is to learn how to write scripts and to be good at it, really, really good at it. It's like sewing or cooking, or you have to learn it. And sometimes you also have like lazy people, you know, they just like aim for being on the bigger picture and being a scriptwriter or a director, but you have to really work for it hard.
Yeah, it's definitely a craft that you have to master in every single department. And there are tools for this online, and hopefully in future, Lkff will be able to provide masterclasses, even more masterclasses regarding to how these tools look like. But thank you both for being on here tonight. And for the audience, thank you very much for joining us on this live panel discussion, Women in Film, with Sulin Youssef and Barry Shalmashi. Unfortunately, Stefanas Evdike was not able to join, and neither was Halima Ilter, but we will hopefully get them on for next time and see their points of view, because seeing the landscape of the sort of hub of Rojava Film Commune is very important and very great, and we would like to see how it looks like over there as well. So one day we will get her on here. Anyways, thank you very much, and please stay tuned for tomorrow's War on Screen. And we do also we have initiated our crowdfunding campaign. So if you would like to donate to Lkff, because this whole program is free for you all to watch and stream, please donate to us on our crowdfunder.co.uk/Lkff. And we will be with you again tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
بكيف خوشی تماشا بکنید.